Hello, and I am back. Hallelujah. All right, saints, so let's go to our next topic. And our next topic was the spirit in quotes of Esau. And you know, we've been speaking about that particular spirit was under the strong man, the strong man of poverty. It's a poverty spirit. You know, poverty is under the prince ruling spirit of frustration. So that particular spirit, that particular spirit of Esau is the kind of spirit that's behind the payday loans, pawn shops. It's the one that will make you eat your food before without praying on it. You know, that particular spirit, because it's a spirit that makes you want. It's more than instant gratification, because that desire for instant gratification can be impatience, it can be greed. You know, that is different. So there are people who are they just want the food, they're greedy, they don't want to wait. That's different. But there's a spirit of Esau. Esau is not the spirit of instant gratification, even though that's what a lot of people think when they read about the Esau. So we need to go back and look at Esau a little bit further. The story of Esau and his birthright did not start with the bowl of beans. The story of Esau and the birthright started in the womb. So what we had in the womb, and I'm going to paraphrase because we're so strapped for time here, is that there was a struggle between Jacob and Esau. You had Rebecca going to God and asking, why, what's going on with me? Why the battle? And he explained there are two different people that are at war. So when we talk about Esau, we're talking about an entire group of people. When we talk about Jacob, we're talking about another. It would almost seem very unfair. It seemed like God was kind of hard on Esau. Well, okay, we have to understand when God said Jacob I love, Esau I hated. The word hate in the biblical term means I love less. So there was a people that would come from Esau. The problem with Esau was the problem that Rebecca commented on, and it was the daughters of Heth. So what we had here was a different group of people who did not necessarily, they didn't serve the Lord. So the reason why we need to understand that is because that was when the birthright was given up. That was why Rebecca was very careful to speak to Jacob, and Jacob was very careful. Speak to Isaac, and Isaac was very careful to ensure that Jacob had a wife of the covenant. So we need to understand that dispute there didn't start with the bowl of beans. So by the time the bowl of beans had already happened, we had two nations at war. And, we have to understand that there are things called generational curses and spirits. There was a reason why God did not encourage outer marrying. A lot of times, if you saw in the Bible, it was very disastrous before man increased in that. And the reason was because you have things that can attach to your bloodline. So understand that the spirit that was on Esau was not just a spirit of greed. But when it came time to it, you say, well, God could have still, but how bad did he want it? Was he willing to hunger and thirst after that righteousness? Because he'd already married outside the bloodline. We remember Jacob, in contrast, was a person who literally was crowned a principality in his time because he was so desperate for the things of God that he wrestled all night with his hip out of joint. Have you ever had even a finger out of joint? It is most uncomfortable. Now you imagine having a hip out of joint all night. That's a night with no sleep. But this man wrestled all night. Compare that with the person who did not fight the spirit of hunger under that those poverty matrix and come out. This is why we have to fight to manifest. Esau was the ordained firstborn, but he had to have the level of, he had to walk in a level of hunger that was deeper than his stomach. So like I mentioned the last time, with Esau had 2 wives. He was always in the field, so we know he wasn't without meat. He wasn't without someone to prepare him food. What was the thing that happened to Esau that would make him not once but twice lose his birthright? The reason why was because there was a spirit there, and these spirits had a right to Esau. And I believe it was because of his marriage, but it was preordained. We know that. But the ordaining of it was a failure to take these things serious and a failure to fight to manifest. Because even if you marry someone that's outside, but if he had the moxie that Jacob had, it wouldn't have stopped him from keeping that. If he had to go and walk around and bite his lip before he gave that birthright up, he would have done it. But he didn't. He did not take those things seriously. He didn't understand that this was a manifested grace over his life. But would you notice that these spirits and how these spirits are, is that once this birthright was gone, you hear about Esau later, you hear that he's very wealthy. Because this spirit had one thing in mind that it wanted to do, and it wanted to cost him that birthright. And the Lord allowed it for holiness and for righteousness' sake, and I believe that he allowed it because of Esau's wives. Because Jacob married of the covenant, and I believe that was why the Lord allowed it, but I can't say for sure that's why. I can say that he didn't fight for it enough, and so because he wasn't willing to wrestle for it, and Jacob got it. Esau came out of the womb with Jacob's hand attached to his heel. That was indicative of their relationship, even though they were twins. There was a struggle there, and Jacob overcame. So yes, Esau had wealth later, because now the spirit of poverty had accomplished its mission. It didn't need to hang around anymore and try to waylay Esau. Now it wanted to go and try to waylay Jacob, which is exactly kind of what it did when it went to Laban, and the Lord intervened, and the Lord allowed those spotted cows and gave grace and gave blessings for Jacob. But the spirit was after Jacob, because ultimately that's, if you look through the Bible, you will see a lot of demonic concentration around the Davidic heritage, because they wanted to stop the birth of Jesus, and they didn't know. Just like we don't know when he's coming back, they didn't know when he was going to come the first time. So that I really am certain that that's the reason why God won't tell, because he knows that the devil's always watching and plotting and planning and scheming and devising. So what he does is he keeps those things secret. It catches the devil off guard. So what the devil does is that he just continues creating readiness. He creates Antichrist in every generation. He has all those things ready to go in place as soon as he sees Jesus. So, that's another conversation for another day. But the reason why Esau, I believe it's the daughters of Heth that had something to do with the reason why the Lord allowed that. But that spirit, once it saw that it had successfully disarmed Esau from receiving his birthright, it immediately went and began to pursue Jacob with that spirit of the vagabond and running from Esau, while at the same time, trying to cheat him out of things through Laban, while on the other hand, Esau began to get wealthy. Of course, Esau's wealthiness cannot compare to the promise. But we know what the agenda was of this particular spirit. And so, they're bringing that to now, especially with people who want to manifest, we see that spirit has a lot of activity. It will make you give up that promise. It will make you give up that birthright. It will make you do these things to have what you feel like you're going to die if you don't get now. later. And there are a lot of valid claims, like I said, about payday loan and things like that. People don't get that stuff because they want to. It is a carefully crafted plan by the kingdom of darkness to keep them having to go in and out and get these things because they need them. You know, you get in these things, and it's also the spirit will attack tithes. Same reason. It's to steal that birthright. You have a right to blessings. So the spirit will try to get you to put everything coming out of your account so that they can attack your tithes before you ever get a chance to pay them. And I personally can say I've experienced the spirit. The spirit has, I mean, literally, you can see it as an intentional attack on your tithes, where they know you've got your tithes and they will make you have to choose. And sometimes the choices or the situations behind the choices are bad to make you not pay your tithes. That's a very wicked spirit. And so, you know, when you hear about Esau, just, you know, when you think about manifesting, understand that is one major enemy of a manifested saint, is the spirits that affected Esau. So I want to devote a few minutes to discussing Delilah as well. Delilah, because while I was sitting and just realized, you know, the thing with Delilah is that a lot of people assume that Delilah is the spirit of the seductress. You know, they finally stopped saying that Jezebel was the one because she had on makeup. And they say, no, it's Delilah that's the seductress. And so a woman who wears red and wears tight clothes and all these things, that's a Delilah spirit. But there's no Bible for that. It's just not biblically written. The Bible was very clear about the attack that Delilah used against Samson. And that attack was very, very plain and straightforward. First of all, she wasn't the spirit of the seductress, because now if we were talking about Herodias, yes, and others, because we know Samson had a tendency to take the occasional prostitute when he felt like it. But that wasn't a spirit that was at work when Delilah betrayed Samson and when she sold him out. As a matter of fact, that particular spirit, the methodology that she used, the Bible outlined very clearly. What she did was she gave him love and warmth and betrayal, and at the same time she was persistent, very, very persistent. So she betrayed over and over and over again, even from the beginning. You know, as soon as they came to her, she took the money. So there was a betrayal there, because the entire time she was around him and speaking to him, she knew that was what she had in mind to do. That there were a lot of spirits at work in Delilah, that the spirit of the betrayer, the spirit of the manipulator. But there's something I spoke about in one of my books, and that's the power of repetition. So that power, that's the law of repetition. And that is a very potent power there, that if you say something or do something enough time, you can create reality. And what she literally did was she kindly and softly bugged the stew out of him until he finally just relented. The Bible says she literally almost drove him crazy. So in other words, she asked again and again and again, what caused it, what caused it, what caused it, what caused it, what caused it. But she was such a, she was so manipulative that she did it in such a soft way until he relented and gave it to her. So think about that when you read that, and it, you know, just keep that in your mind as we kind of try to look at what we've been taught and compare that with the Word. Okay, saints, well, I will speak with you again on Wednesday. Until then.